Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Raquel, but if you're not, you already know how much I love to travel, see new things, and really experience the world for real. I'm super excited because I'm in the process of finalizing my trip to Thailand. Yes, I'm going to Thailand. So if you watched my last video, I was trying to keep it a secret from y'all, but the secret is out. I thought it would be super cool to take you guys along the planning process and what I do to plan my travels. It's a lot to cover, I'm not gonna lie. It's a lot to cover. So if you haven't already, be sure to click the like and subscribe button and let's get started. When it comes to travel, the first thing you want to do is select a travel destination. You really want to figure out where you're trying to go and why you're trying to go there. When it comes to me, I want to see the entire world. Like, the entire world is the goal, but the entire world isn't the same. It doesn't look the same. You're not going to experience the same things, which is why it's so important to keep an open mind. I like to keep a running wish list of all the countries that I want to visit, and every year I slowly cross off one country at a time. The countries currently on the top of my wish list are, of course, Thailand, Bali, the Maldives, South Africa, Jordan, Turkey, and the list goes on. My number one pro tip when picking a travel destination is writing down all the things that appeal to you in those countries. You can use websites like TripAdvisor, watch your favorite influencers and content creators on YouTube and TikTok. You can look at geotags on Instagram to see what are the top tagged destinations and locations in the country that you're trying to visit. You really want to get some inspiration into what's really drawing you to those countries. My second pro tip when picking a travel destination is really to be flexible. Flexibility will bring you a long way and allow you to capture some great deals, but we'll get into that once we get to flights. Budget is another huge factor you want to take into consideration before booking anything. Personally, I don't know how I'm gonna spend every single dollar when I'm planning a trip, but with that being said, I think it's super important to have a budget range that you can work within. This budget range needs to be decided before you book anything because it'll determine where you'll go and most importantly what you'll do. The first budget range you need to determine is your flight prices. The flight price needs to be a range that you're comfortable with, so you need to determine what that range will be. Are you comfortable spending $500 on a flight, $1,000 on a flight, $1,500 on a flight? You need to pick a range and it needs to be something that you're comfortable with. And the same goes for your accommodations, your excursions, your food, etc. When picking Thailand as my travel destination, I knew that my flight price ticket range needed to be between $1,000 and $1,500. I don't know anybody that just wants to throw out $1,000 to $1,500 on a flight, but it had to be something that I had to get comfortable with if I wanted to go to Thailand. Lucky for me, I was able to find my flight to Thailand for $900, and after applying my travel credit card points, my flight to Thailand only came up to $415. So drastically lower than the ticket range price that I had determined for myself, but it was something that I could work within, I was comfortable with, and luckily I just got a great steal. My number one pro tip when setting a budget is to make sure that you have some wiggle room. This wiggle room is for you to have some extra room for emergencies or any unplanned expenses. My second pro tip is to check the exchange rates before you go to your desired destination. This will show you how far your dollar can actually go in that country. My favorite app to use is my currency converter app. You can find it in your app store, and that'll really just show you what are my rates from this dollar to that dollar to this dollar. And Thailand is pretty cheap, so I'm not really worried about how far the US dollar can go compared to the baht. Something else you may want to consider before making any hard plans is determining the time frame you want to travel. I personally like traveling during the peak season, but you can also travel during the off season as well. Some of the pros of traveling during the peak season is, of course, nicer weather. I love the sun. You won't catch me going nowhere that it's cold, rainy, cloudy. If I'm going on vacation, I need sunshine. So I love traveling during the peak season. But some of the cons of traveling during the peak season is there are going to be a lot more crowds, a lot more tourists, and sometimes the prices are going to be super high and super inflated due to a lot of people traveling during this time. That goes for like Caribbean countries, trying to travel to Caribbean countries during the summertime. But Jamaica when it's in the summer, Aruba in the summer is just giving, I'ma just have to eat those extra costs because I'm not passing it up. But the opposite goes for the off season. Personally, I really do like traveling during the peak season, but my #1 pro tip is to travel during the shoulder months. The shoulder months gives you that perfect balance. It's that time frame right between your peak and your off season. Thailand's peak season is actually from November to March. I'm going to be traveling to Thailand in March, right before the peak season ends, but right before the off season begins. So do what you want with that information. You really just have to determine what you're looking for in that travel destination and the type of weather you want to experience while you're there. Again, I like sunshine, so I'm always going to travel during the peak season or right before the peak season ends, like I'm doing with Thailand during that shoulder month. Okay. So the preliminaries are all out the way. Now it's time to start booking. When it comes to travel, I always like to start with booking my flight first, because without a flight, where are you really going? How are you going to be getting to your travel destination? Are you going to walk, the train, the bus, a boat? Like, how are you getting anywhere without the flight? So I always like to start with booking my flight first. When I book my flight first, this also will give me the exact dates I'll be traveling so I can book my accommodations and any transportation that I may need. When booking a flight, I highly recommend Google Flights. It is my default option when booking any of my travel destinations. It's super easy to use, it's fast, and it gives you great deals. I always like to start with my departure airport or my home airport. For Thailand, I'll be actually flying out of JFK and then selecting the airport where I'll be arriving to in my travel destination. For Thailand, I'll actually be going to Bangkok. That will be my first stop. So I'll be traveling from JFK to Bangkok. Remember earlier in this video, I mentioned being flexible. It's super important to be flexible because my #1 pro tip is checking the dates on either side of the dates that you selected to see if you can get a better deal. There are 2 ways that you can do that, and I'm going to show you how to do that in this video. Next to your selected date, you're going to click on the calendar icon. All the dates that have a green money value are the dates that have the cheapest flight prices. I'm picking a random week in the month of September to show you what the prices come out to. Next, you're going to click on the date grid so you can see the dates 2 or 3 days prior to the dates that you have selected to get the best prices, and boom, that's it. Another way you can secure some great deals is using Scott's Cheap Flights. Scott's Cheap Flights is an email subscription that will send you customized flight deals for all around the world. It's super easy to join. All you have to do is go to Scott's Cheap Flights website, create an account, select your home airport, and boom, you're in. I won't be able to take advantage of any of the flight deals that I've gotten just in this week alone, but I wanted to share a few with you. I've gotten flight deals for Paris and New Amsterdam for under $600. I've gotten flight deals for Croatia for under $500. And I've even gotten flight deals for Brazil for under $500. I don't think y'all can beat that. But it does require you to be flexible because the dates will vary and it may not align with the dates you have selected for your travel destination. Okay. Once the flights are booked, I like to take a quick pause and a step back to get some inspiration and ideas of what I want my trip to look like. When going to a new travel destination, there are going to be a million options of things to do, places to go, where to eat, things to experience. So I just like to ask myself a few questions to get me back on the right track. Am I going to multiple cities or am I going to just one? Am I trying to look for a more relaxing trip or do I need a little bit more adventure? Am I trying to be in the city or am I trying to stay in a more mountain-like rural area? Do I want to be on the beach or do I really want to be hiking up mountains and volcanoes on my trip? There are a million more questions to ask yourself to get an idea of what you want your trip to look like. I also use websites like TripAdvisor to research the cities that I'm going to determine what are some things that I can do while I'm there, places to eat, things to see, and to see what other people have experienced. I also like to use Instagram and TikTok to get ideas and inspiration and see what other travelers have experienced and the things that they did while they were in their travel destination. I also like to, of course, use YouTube to figure out some things that I should and should not do, things that I should also experience, and just get more insight on my travel destination. Some of the things that gave me inspiration to want to go visit Thailand is going to Phi Phi Islands, visiting the elephant and tiger sanctuaries, and of course, all of the amazing temples across the country of Thailand. And did I mention the food? To really create a 10-day itinerary for Thailand, I really wanted to get some inspiration and figure out where I wanted to go. And of course, I will be visiting multiple cities across my 10 days there. So I'll be going to Thailand and first starting in Bangkok. Bangkok will be my first stop. I'll then be going to Chiang Mai. From Chiang Mai, we'll be going to Phuket. From Phuket, we'll take a day trip to go to Phi Phi Islands. And then after Phuket, I'll be going back to Bangkok to head back home to New Jersey and then coming back to Baltimore. So now, up to this point, that's really all I need to know to start booking my accommodations. So we got our flights, we got our inspo, we know that we staying in 3 different cities once we get to Thailand. Now it's time to figure out where we finna stay, how we finna book these accommodations. For me, no option is off the table. I have stayed and looked at Airbnbs, hostels, resorts, hotels. Like, nothing is really off the table. In Thailand, I'll be staying in a combination of hostels and hotels. In Bangkok, I'll be staying in a hostel. Chiang Mai, I'll be staying in a hostel. Phuket, I'll be staying in a hotel and resort. And once I get back to Bangkok, I'll be staying in a hotel and resort or a hostel. I don't really know yet, but we gonna figure it out. When booking your accommodations, something that you want to ask yourself is, what do I value more? Do you value the location more, the price more, the aesthetics more? What do you value more? Asking yourself these questions are going to help you determine the type of accommodations that you're going to be looking for. If you value the location more, you may not want to stay outside of the major city because it's going to be harder for you to have access and just step out of your accommodation to walk around, explore the town, and you're going to have to book extra transportation that may not be accessible to where you are. So being outside of the major city may not be the best location for you if you value being in the city. Another thing you may want to consider is the price. Maybe staying in a hotel and or resort is not in your budget range and you have to resort to an Airbnb or a hostel or couch surfing. I personally have stayed in multiple hostels when I was in Cuba, and I had a great time and a great experience. I was able to meet other travelers, especially since I was traveling solo. I was able to meet other travelers. The host of my hostel was super helpful, and they was able to, you know, second as a tour guide for me and help me around the country that I was in. I just had a great time when I stayed in my hostel, and so many other countries offer hostels as well, and they're super budget friendly. In Chiang Mai, I actually got my hostel for only $15 a night. I don't think anybody is beating that. $15 a night, and it's also aesthetically pleasing. So if that is something that you also value, you want to look at accommodations that are aesthetically pleasing and that really match your vibe that you're looking for. For me, all 3 gotta check the box. Like, I'm looking at the price, I'm looking at the location, and I'm looking to see if it's matching the aesthetic that I want to go for in my travel destination. My #1 pro tip when trying to figure out your accommodations is to read the reviews. I don't care if your best friend, your mom, if you thought the accommodations was heaven sent, you need to make sure that you read the reviews. I like to see at least 10 reviews on the accommodations that I'm looking at to really get a gauge of how people experiences were, but that may not always be the case, and you may just want to take the risk. Again, you can always resort to social media to see their reviews on there, but make sure that you're reading reviews, you're getting other people's opinions and insights before you book any accommodations. Now that we have our flights and accommodations, next we need to consider our transportation. It's super important for us to figure out how we'll get to and from the airport prior to arriving to our travel destination. And if you're anything like me and you plan on traveling to multiple cities within one country, we need to figure out how we'll get to and from those as well. Some of our transportation options may include catching a plane, a train, car, Uber, Lyft. Whatever your transportation options as well, they will differ between every travel destination, and you need to figure out which option works best for you. If you're traveling to the US, I recommend always renting a car. That's your best form of transportation. But for Thailand, our best form of transportation is using an app called Grab, which is similar to Uber and Lyft, a taxi, or a train. Depending on where you're traveling to, all these options can be on the table. So make sure you do your research to figure out which option works best for you. Okay, so now all of your big major things are booked, but it's still not over. This part gets a little bit more fun, but I'm gonna go over some small details but very important factors you may want to consider when booking your next trip. So just keep watching. First things first, we want to get all of our documents in order. If you don't know, you cannot travel if your passport is about to expire within 6 months. So if you don't plan on going out the country and returning back to the US before that 6-month mark, you need to get that together because you will not be going anywhere. So you want to make sure you got your documents in order. If that country that you're visiting requires you to have a visa, you want to make sure that your visa is purchased prior to you arriving in that country. When I went to Cuba, I did have to purchase a visa, but I was able to purchase the visa directly from the airport. Not every airport will allow you to purchase a visa. So this is something you need to research prior to you arriving to that travel destination. Also, you want to make sure that no immunization records are required for some countries, as they do require immunization records. The next thing I want to talk about is your flights. If your flight has a short layover, that's something that you want to consider and take note of, because guess what? Short layover with checked bag equal no luggage. So you don't want to be in that situation where your luggage doesn't make it in time to your next flight to get to your final destination. You also want to make sure that you have all of your documents printed out regarding your flight, whether that's flight confirmation, so you know when you're arriving and departing. You want to know what gate you're arriving to. Print all those things out so you just have them accessible to you, and you just don't have no issues when you're trying to find all this flight information. You may not have Wi-Fi, you may not have service. Just have it printed out and accessible just in case you need it. The next thing that I want to talk about is driver's license. Just in case you do plan on renting a car in your travel destination, you want to figure out their driving requirements. In some countries, you may have to get an international driver's license when you're trying to rent a car and travel in that travel destination. So that's just something that you want to consider and look up and research prior to renting a car or making any arrangement that has to do with driving. Personally, I ain't driving internationally. I'm not doing it. I don't know the laws. I don't know the roads. I don't know nothing. I'm not driving. I personally would rent a private driver, or again, figure out my transportation prior to me arriving to that travel destination. So I don't even gotta worry about driving nowhere. Hiring a guide is also a great resource and a great tool to have and take advantage of, because maybe you don't want to get an international driver's license and you don't want to go through that hassle. So when I was in Cuba, I had a guide and they hired a driver, like a taxi company, and it was just us three rolling around all day. Maybe that's something that you want to consider. Another important question you want to ask yourself is, how will you be paying for everything? I personally like to use cash when I'm traveling internationally. I make sure that I go to my local bank to do all of my transactions from USD to the currency of the country that I'm traveling to. For Thailand, the international currency is the baht. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. but you can always walk around with your travel credit card as well. That's something that I do for a backup, a just in case. I have Chase Sapphire Preferred because they have no international transaction fees, along with a bunch of other great benefits. But there are so many other travel credit cards out there that you can use for travel with no international transaction fees, great benefits. So if you don't have a travel credit card, I highly recommend. Prior to your next trip, something that I also recommend you doing is notifying your bank prior to your departure. You want to make sure that your bank knows that you will be using a travel credit card while traveling internationally, so they don't think that you're getting scammed, your card was stolen, and you don't have any type of issues while you're traveling internationally trying to use your travel credit card. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is making sure that you have a backup plan to the plan, okay? The plan need a backup plan. The backup plan need an extra backup plan. Because if you don't have a backup plan, you're going to be like me when I went to Cuba by myself and I ran out of money. I did not have a backup plan for when I would run out of money, because I knew that I wasn't going to be able to use any of my credit cards while I was there. I wasn't going to be able to use the ATM. My last resort was really actually going to the bank in person to try to do a withdrawal, a conversion or something. But we didn't even have time to do that. So make sure you have a backup plan, or you're going to be asking random strangers on the street for money to get you back home, like me. Another important thing I want to discuss is travel is so unpredictable. It's so unpredictable, and everything may not go as you want them to. When it comes to booking activities and excursions, I really like to book them ahead of time prior to me arriving to my travel destination. In some instances, I have seen that it could be cheaper if you book those excursions while you're actually in that country, but I really like to be prepared to know what my day is heading for, and for things that are super popular and things that people often do in another country may be sold out by the time that you get there. So just booking my activities and excursions in advance really allows me to plan ahead, so I can know what I need to bring, what I need to wear, to ensure that I have a time slot for that excursion while I'm in that country, and I just don't have any issues when I get there. I also recommend that you do not overkill yourself. I only recommend you doing one activity in the morning and afternoon, and maybe you do something chill at night, or vice versa. But do not overpack your schedule. It's better to have a more light schedule that you can add to, change, and implement different things into, than to have a jam-packed schedule and then you have no room for anything else. If you're doing an all-day or half-day excursion, of course, it's going to take your whole day, and maybe you'll do something chill in the morning or night once the excursion is over. But just remember, don't overpack your schedule, don't overkill yourself, because you want to make sure that you have some room in there in case anything pop up, new opportunities present themselves, and you can easily pivot and adjust. When traveling internationally, another thing you want to consider is the language. Is English the primary language spoken in that country? I'm not saying learn the entire dictionary in this other country's language. I'm not saying you have to be fluent in this other country's language. All I'm saying is it may be beneficial for you to learn some key phrases and key words while you're there. Things like hello, thank you. Maybe you want to learn your entire coffee order, and really asking where's the bathroom. I'm pretty sure that's something that we all need to know. My number one pro tip when there is a language barrier is Google Translate. Google Translate literally saved my life while I was in Cuba. You can take pictures of signs, menus, like literally anything. It also can communicate by voice, so if somebody is speaking in Spanish or in Thai or Japanese, it'll pick up that language and communicate back to you in the language that you need. Like for me, it will be English. So Google Translate is definitely a lifesaver, and I highly recommend that you download that in your app store if you plan on traveling to a country where there is a language barrier. Dun 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 dun. we finally made it to the end of the video. We're putting it all together and actually making our itinerary. So at this point, you have a bunch of information all over. You have your airport and travel confirmations. You have all of your accommodations, check-ins, checkouts, phone numbers, addresses. You have your transportation schedule and all their addresses and pickup times and all your excursions and when they will be occurring. It's just so much information all over the place. So for me, I like to put it all together. I like to do it in my iPhone notes. It's super accessible and convenient, and you're able to share it with other people. You're going to make the title of this note the name of the travel destination that you'll be going to. So for me, I'm just gonna put it at the top, Thailand. And right now, I'm just gonna be adding in all of this information. So I do have color coding system, but I just do this because it's super easy on the eye. I also added any notes, so any address, check-in, checkouts, phone numbers, anything that I think I may need. I also add this in the notes, and any links that have been sent to me, I also add this in the note as well, so I know exactly where I did the booking, who I did the booking with, or where I did the booking from. I just think using your notes is super easy and super convenient, and you're able to share it easily, and it's right in the comfort of your hand. Like, you use your phone all day, every day. That's the end of the video, y'all. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you really enjoyed what you saw and heard today, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to share this video with a friend so they can get some free gems too. If you have any questions about anything that I may not have covered in this video, don't forget to drop those questions down in the comment section below. And if you want to share some of the things that you do to prepare for your trips, share them as well in the comment section below. I always appreciate you guys for watching all of my videos. Thank you for sticking around all the way to the end. I hope you guys learned something new, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.